Goose, your local AI agent used for automating engineering tasks, and it's brought to us by the folks over at Block. The tool is open source, runs locally, it's extensible, and it's autonomous, so it can independently handle all the tasks you're looking to accomplish. That said, you're likely wondering, how exactly do you extend it with MCP servers? Well, I got you, and I'm going to show you how to do that right now. Now, one thing to note, there are a couple of ways you can install Goose, either the Goose CLI or the Goose desktop application. It's available for all the operating systems, Windows, Linux, Mac OS. So your experience may be slightly different than mine, but I'm going to be working off of Windows with Git Bash. However, this should all translate over to your operating system. We're going to start off with the Goose desktop application. So here we have Goose all set up via the desktop application, and I want to add an MCP server. Now, one thing to note here is that the terminology that Goose uses, if you want to add MCP servers, you need to look at that as an extension of Goose. So they use the extensions view here, and by default, they have one that's the developer enabled extension and this to-do list extension that's built into and comes with Goose desktop. The other ones that come with it are auto visualizer, computer controller, memory, and tutorial. And these are disabled by default, allowing you to choose whether or not you want to give Goose that level of control on your system. So if we wanted to add a new one beyond these, we have two options. We can browse the extensions via Goose's MCP registry, if you will, or extension site, or we can add a custom one. First, we're going to start off with browsing extensions, and then we'll jump into adding a custom one. And it brings us to this website here that shows us a list of extensions that are available. Again, the ones that were built in are noted here, and they're all grouped under built-in extensions or community extensions. So we'll skip down to community extensions, and let's go ahead and add the Chrome DevTools one. We'll click on install, which prompts me to open up the Goose desktop application. And when I come over here, I get a notification to confirm that I want to install this extension, the command that's being used to install it. I'm going to click yes on that. And then we can see in the top right-hand corner, I get a little toast notification indicating that that extension, MCP server, was installed successfully. The other way you can verify that is under the enabled extensions. You should see that new extension enabled there. If we wanted to, we can turn this on and off with this little toggle button and then back on again. Once it gets activated, we can configure this further if maybe we want to add other command line arguments to the command that runs this particular MCP server, or any environment variables we need to set to go along with that. Now that we have that setup installed, let's go ahead and try and use it. So I'm going to head on over to chat. The keyboard shortcut in Goose desktop is supposed to be Control+, but I found out the hard way that that does not work, and it's Control+Shift+ to zoom in, Control- to zoom out. So just a note to folks, if anybody from Goose watches this, that's not working for me on Windows for the Goose desktop application. We're in the chat, so now we need to prompt Goose using the model that we configured for it. In this case, I'm using Claude Sonnet 4 to leverage the Chrome DevTools. Use the Chrome DevTools extension and navigate to block.github.io/Goose and measure the site's performance. This is not necessarily leveraging all the capabilities or reasons why you might use this MCP server, but it's at least going to demonstrate it being used. Now, to double check that we are using that extension or MCP server, we can hover over this tool call that Goose is trying to use and make. We can see that it's coming from Chrome DevTools extension. So I'm going to say allow once. It opens up the Chrome browser, and we'll notice that Chrome is being controlled by automated test software here. Tell it to allow once, going to that new page, navigate to that page. And it did indeed open up that page for me. All right, so I've rearranged my windows so we can see what actions are being taken in the Chrome browser as Goose is going through these steps. I'm going to allow it to start a trace reload and auto stop. You can see the page refreshed. And then once that's done, we can see that we get all the details from the Chrome DevTools extension, performance start trace reload, and auto stop tool details that came up there. I'm going to minimize that and then allow Goose and Claude Sonnet 4 to summarize the details there. So here's the performance summary. We can see that Block Goose website shows excellent performance overall, and here are the key metrics, and we can go into the details of that. If there were issues, performance issues, we can find out more about those and use Goose and Claude Sonnet 4 to figure out ways to improve the performance of the website if we wanted to. So there you have it. That's setting up the Chrome DevTools MCP server or extension in Goose. Now, I said we're going to set up another MCP server type that is not part of the extensions view or registry that Goose has, we're going to add a custom extension. In order to do that, we go to the extensions again view that we see here. We click on add custom extension and we see this new pop-up window. We got to give it a name. I'm going to call it Snyk Security. It's going to use the standard input output type. Give it a description. It says optional description, so we can leave that out. And then we're going to put in the command that's needed for this. And that command is npx-y snyk at latest. Spin up the MCP server for it and tell it what transport protocol to use. stdio. And then we click on add extension. And just like that, within a second or two, it was set up and activated. We could see right here. So now let's go ahead and try using it. All right, so I started up a new chat here. I made sure that I'm in my project folder. In this case, it's one of our older ChatGPT 4.0 projects that we tested out. I'm going to prompt it to please check for security issues in the open source dependencies of this project. It should pick up on the need to use the Snyk security tool. But first off, it's going to analyze the project folder structure and files that are within it. So I'm going to allow it to do that. Then it wants to read the package JSON file. And now once it has an understanding of the project type, it's going to notice that it should use the Snyk security extension, and in particular, the scan tool that's available from that extension or MCP server. So I'm going to allow it to run that as well, which came back with a bunch of information for it. And now Goose and Claude Sonnet 4 are analyzing those results. And we can see a nice rendered output of those results here. So we found 5 security vulnerabilities, and here's the report we have here. 2 of them are high severity, 3 of them are medium severity. We get more details about what those issues are in our open source dependencies and what we can do to fix them. So in this case, we need to upgrade to Mongoose 8.9.5 to fix this particularly high severity issue. And there you have it. That is how you can add an MCP server or extension to Goose via the existing list of extensions that you can run through the install flow that's available via Goose's extensions view, or add in custom extensions / MCP servers. So that was showing how to set up MCP servers via the Goose desktop application. What if you don't want to use that and you want to use the Goose CLI? Let me show you that really quick. Assuming you have the Goose CLI installed already, you're going to want to run goose configure. And in here, you want to select add extension. Then it's going to prompt you asking about what type of extension you would like to add. There are the built-in extensions, which if you hit enter on that, you could see the ones that are built in and come baked with Goose if you'd like. The one downside of this is you can't exit out of that prompt necessarily. So if I want to go back to that point in the Goose CLI, I have to restart the whole thing. So now I'm going to run goose configure again. We're going to say add extension. And now we're going to say command line extension. So very similar to how we were prompted in the Goose desktop application, the CLI asks for the same information here. Like, what should they call the extension? In this case, we're going to say Snyk security. How are we going to run it? We put in that same command that we had before, npx-y at snyk at latest. We're going to tell it to run the MCP server -t for the protocol and a standard input output. This is asking for a timeout. The default is 300. You have to enter it. Same for a description. I try to enter without any description in the CLI. For some reason, it's actually required, whereas the desktop application, it's not. So we'll just call it Snyk's MCP server. Would you like to add environment variables? I'm going to go with no. Now the extension has been added. While I showed you how to set up an MCP server or extension via the Goose CLI, if you've already done that via the desktop, don't repeat that because that will interfere with that setup that you had already. So in this case, if we look at when I run Goose, we'll notice that I already have those 2 extensions. DevTools and Snyk security was already being initialized by the Goose CLI there. So if you've already done it in the desktop, you're all set. You don't need to reconfigure it from the CLI, but I wanted to at least show you how to get that started from the Goose CLI approach. Then from there, you give it your normal prompts that would trigger the use of those MCP server tools, and you're good to go. So there you have it. That's how you can add MCP servers or extensions in Goose World for the Goose desktop or the Goose CLI. I'm curious though, what are the MCP servers or extensions that you find yourself using the most when leveraging them in Goose? Let me know in the comments below. That does it for this video. If you got value out of it, be sure to like it down below and share with somebody who could put it to use. And if you made it this far, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on upcoming videos. Thanks for watching and happy, safe coding, everyone.